Hi guys, welcome to episode 1 of The Secrets of an Independent Estate Agent. Today I'll speak to Andrew Sharpe from Sharpe Sales and Lettings, not only about the industry and his views on it, but also how he creates some amazing content out there. So if you're an agent that really struggles with this and wants to know a process, Andrew goes into this process during this episode. So I really hope you enjoy it. Welcome to this episode here where I am with Andrew Sharpe from Sharpe Sales and Lettings. He's a client of ours at the moment, and I've asked him to come and speak to us all about content marketing, what makes it successful for him, how he does it. There's a lot of agents out there who are starting to see within our Lifecycle community group about Andrew's work and what he can do. He's even provided some of his content out to some of our members. So Andrew, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It'd be awesome to start off with if you could just introduce yourself, a bit about who you are and what you do, and we can lead obviously from there.
Yeah, cool. So thanks, Rob. So I am the sales and lettings director for a franchise, Sharpe Sales and Lettings, and we're based in the East Midlands. So we cover sort of the Burton upon Trent and Derby area. I started, when did I start? So about just under 15 years ago, I started in estate agency. So very kind of different world. Spent nearly 11 years kind of working for Countrywide, so corporate. So I come from a very kind of corporate background, which was amazing because the training I got back in 2005 and kind of the years that I started in the industry was phenomenal. It was really good. And then 4 years ago, I made the jump into the world of independence, and I joined Sharpe to start a cold start sales side of the business. It was an existing lettings business that had been going for about 11 years at the time. And I joined to start the sales side of the business. And then over the subsequent years, I've taken over the lettings and the property management, and kind of all of that now falls under my kind of remit, if you like.
How did that move come about then?
I was approached by the company owners because they were looking for, so my background is sales predominantly, so they were looking for somebody who worked in the local area to come and join them and start up the sales side, and they didn't really have any kind of sales experience at all, so they were looking for that. So yeah, they approached me and we had a chat and talked about what their plans were, their mission, their vision, and it sounded very, very good, and it's been very, very good. It's been a tough 4 years, but it's been an awesome 4 years, really.
What was Countrywide your first estate agency job then? What made you get into estate agency? Was it like most people just fell into it, or?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, my journey's been pretty much the same as I think most people's journey. So came out of uni. I was at Loughborough at the time, just finished at Loughborough Uni, and looking for a job. Really, my kind of original intention actually was to go join the RAF as an engineer. So my background is I did a degree in engineering. That's kind of my background and kind of what I wanted to do. But at the time, there was a 2-year waiting list. So I thought, I need to find a job. I can't sit around waiting for this for 2 years. And I was actually looking for a house to rent at the time. Walked into the office and they had a notice in the window just saying sales negotiator wanted. Dropped my CV in. 2 weeks later, sat at the front desk, and I've never really looked back since, really.
And what would you say, like, how long has it been now? You said 19 years, is it? Probably
15 years. 15
years now. So how would you say it's different from, like, how would it be different from your first day you ever started into estate agency, in how it would be different you coming into your branch now? Yeah. So what would you think that, say, the main differences would be?
I think from a kind of a customer perspective, I think the main difference that I see, I think is, and I've kind of felt, I think really with new starters that I've then trained, is that 15 years ago, it was all hotboxing from, I used to have this folder, which was kind of my life. Was this folder flick backwards and forwards, and you had like a hot section, you had a viewing section, feedback, and then you had your sort of Monday to Friday scale section, and you used to kind of take the applicant cards out, fill it, and you scroll all over it, and that's kind of how you managed your applicants. But it was a very different kind of relationship you had with them, because I think you had they came into the office, which was a big difference compared to now. So you had that opportunity to sit down with them and have a face-to-face conversation with them. And I think people probably gave you a little bit more time than they do now. So I think 15 years ago, you would get into that buyer's journey much, much earlier than you do now. I think at the point you now first probably speak to most people is when they're arranging to view a property.
Yeah.
I'm already way through that process. Where 15 years ago, you were...
I remember it being like, I used to have the little black box on my desk, and then I had the folder with all the property details in. So then you'd have all like, mine was in price range, etc. And you'd go through that journey, wouldn't you? And you say, I've got this, I've got that. And then I haven't got, okay, what I'll do is I'll take your name and number. Because really in those days, still email addresses weren't so...
Yeah. We had one computer for the whole branch. And that was the admin.
Exactly.
And it was her responsibility to...
match an email out.
I don't even know if we did that, to be fair. I think it was all just phone calls and posting. We used to post ones, like piles of posts at the end of the day.
The endless, like, this is the match list, and then you email it out to the person, and then you'd have all, like, wasn't it? It'd literally be like on a weekly basis. It would sit down on a Friday and post copious amounts of stuff out to people. But I always found, like, with the my box, I always used to have on the back of all of my things, like the bits that I find most CRM systems can't even hold is the detailed sections about, like, you know, their dog, they've got a couple of kids, a kid goes to school, blah, blah, blah. So then it always triggers that. And I found that it probably works with you as well. You have to have that certain mindset to remember that stuff. So that when that person comes back in...
I can't 100% agree with you, Rob, because I remember when I was taught as a negotiator, the most important question I was taught was to find out the why question. So why are they moving? What's the whole thing driving this conversation? And we used to have this kind of anagram which we kind of followed, and we used to write it down on the actual applicant card. And that just doesn't translate into a CRM, because all the CRM systems are really kind of interested in is name, phone number, email address, a price, and maybe some basic attributes of kind of what they're looking for. So we kind of force the system we have in the little freehand box that you can write in that we've got on our system. We put in those sort of hard and soft facts. So what they'll compromise on, what the reason for moving, the timeframes, all those kind of things that really help you kind of identify and qualify who's a good applicant and who you should be spending your time, who's going to buy like in the next week, who's your hot person, really. I think.
Do you find because of the underdevelopment of CRMs and also a lot of talk about portals and stuff like that, do you find that there's a loss, that sort of depersonalization in the industry because of those reasons?
Hugely.
Like, I think obviously, like, if you think about it, like ourselves and other agents out there who have come from that cut of original, but have moved with the times, have understood that. But with a new breed of generation of estate agents that have come in since the loss of the hot box, and they've only just been trained in, this is how you use a computer, this is how you use a system, you put the first name, email address, telephone number in here. The other stuff, don't worry about it. Yeah,
I think I probably would say that for me, I think that probably came in around 2010, 2011. Started to notice that new young negotiators coming into the industry were just taught, just like, this is how you use the system. Don't worry about anything else. Use the system, put everything in the system, match it. And I think that kind of, as an industry as a whole, has probably created a really unskilled kind of workplace or workforce in businesses, and lazy estate agents because of that, because all they have to then think about doing is putting the property on the portals, registering some people and letting things happen, matches and kind of automations, which is great. Automations are really good, but it only kind of will fulfill part of the story. So you need that proactive side. That's probably where you see the difference between your really good agents and your agents that just rely on, let's stick a property on Rightmove or Zoopla and wait for the phone. And undoubtedly, there are always those properties where, you know, the minute you put that property live, the phone's going to be ringing off the hook for the next 2 hours. And that's great, but for those clients that have got those more unique homes, those more expensive homes, those tougher homes to sell, then they're never going to get the best price for their home doing it that way. They might sell it, but they're hoping for somebody to see it on Rightmove, and then you're going to go into how well it's marketed, and that's a whole different kind of path, which is easy for me to rant on, but I won't.
So we've obviously you've been a client of ours for how long now? Is it?
Been nearly 2 years, I think.
2 years, almost. Yeah. And obviously you've moved across to our new platform, Lifecycle.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be people who are watching this have started to, you've started to almost create a name for yourself in our group anyway. There's even content. I see it's almost Andrew Sharpe's content creations dotted around between our clients. And you've been great enough to be a part of that community feel that we wanted to achieve, where you share your helpful hints and tips and bits and pieces. But it's very interesting. I think a lot of agents struggle with creating content and a thought process in behind it. And I know it might not be for everyone because everyone's brain's different, but sort of it'd be great just to dig deep into, like, where do you get your mindset, your creative mindset from? Is it something natural, or do you have to sort of dig deep to try and find the creativity of what you want to try and achieve from it? What's the process?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because content and writing is not my forte at all. I don't know if that's probably what you expected me to say, but I have a very logical engineering type of brain.
Yeah.
So I like an answer, like something to have an answer at the start, and I know, right, I've got that right, I've not got that right. And it's something I've had to kind of teach myself and work really hard at, to write content, because writing for me doesn't come that easy, and I can rewrite a piece several times. And over the years, I've kind of tried different things. I've tried writing it, I've tried handwriting it, I've tried typing it, I've tried dictating it and getting it transcribed. And I've just kind of found kind of what works for me a little bit. And I think what's helped is I've got a thirst for knowledge naturally. So I kind of read a lot of stuff. I've watched a lot of stuff, and kind of just knowing a basic structure of how a blog or a piece of content goes together. But I think the whole bigger picture for me that kind of helped, and a lot of these pieces of the jigsaw have only really come about because of Lifecycle and the training that you guys at Lifecycle have provided, and the help and support with kind of how the sales funnel kind of works, really, because it's all well and good. And I've been in this position up until probably Lifecycle in reality, where we were just pumping out content, and we kind of had a purpose for it, and we knew who our end reader needed to be.
Yeah.
But we never really knew who that end reader was, or whether the end reader was the person that we wanted it to be, unless we got that phone call because they said, "Oh, I want to come out. I want you to come out because I've seen this article." Or you have to be very active in asking kind of questions to what was made you have us out.
It's a weird one, because again, it goes back to that training. Everyone could be trained saying, "What made you come to us today? Did you see one of our soul boards? Did you receive one of our leaflets?" But did you read any of our content online or anything like that? It's a bit of a weird conversation to have, or an uncomfortable one in a lot of cases. How you said obviously you did various different things and you come into your own. What would you say are like your tips for anyone who has that sort of similar style brain? You said it was thirst for knowledge. Was there anything that you've read that you found great, that's inspired you? Or even some sort of
I think I've just
studies or...
Yeah, I think there's probably not one book that jumps out particularly. I think it's just various different books around kind of how the brain works, negotiation, kind of sort of sales, kind of business books, if you like. And I've done a few of kind of the industry kind of courses, and that's kind of helped me get kind of on the journey with it. And that's kind of really kickstarted it probably for me about 2 years ago, I would say it was now. And just practice. And I think the biggest thing is just jumping in and getting on with it. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Over my career, I've kind of had to teach myself to, very early on, I was kind of shown or told that I kind of knew I was a perfectionist, but I was sort of told kind of and shown how I was a perfectionist, how that actually impacted me day to day, because everyone works differently, and their brains work differently. So like, I was lucky enough to be kind of shown how my brain works and what that meant. So I know that I can quite easily procrastinate over a piece of content or work or whatever it might be, because I want it to be perfect. And I was told years ago, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And just get it done, get it out. Don't worry too much if it's not perfect, one sentence not exactly right, because the vast majority of people won't pick it up. You'll get that one person that will come back and just say, you spelled this wrong, or your grammar's not right. Yeah, it's not. Like, that's me. Like,
because I, you know, Mark talks about this a lot, doesn't he? He did the video piece about, you know, the perfection of it over procrastination of something. And I have always said it's easier for someone to critique something that's done than to create something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because it's easy just to read over a load of words and then so you could have written it this different and be done this way. But I think if it wasn't even there, then no one would be able to read it to even do that. So explain, like, to probably help a lot of agents out there, what would you say is your process to achieve some content you've created?
So I guess
do you have a routine?
Yeah, not. Maybe I do. I mean, it might come out as a routine. I mean, essentially what I do is I listen and kind of observe, I guess, are probably the two biggest things. So when I'm speaking to people day to day, doesn't matter whether it's landlords, tenants, buyers, sellers, the team actually give me loads of inspiration, because they're always coming off the phone and going, this has happened, or this is the third conversation I've had about this week, and I think, that's quite relevant to this week. That would make a really good piece. And even in our team meeting this morning, the same kind of thing was coming up, and it's the third or fourth time it's come up this week, and I thought, right, okay, let's just write a blog about it. It's just kind of listening and just. Is
it because because of you leading your team, you're listening to the auto responses from your team and what that's been coming through? That's then giving you the ability, the inspiration. Because I think sometimes you find that in some offices, everyone's segmented off. So if you're not in the same room as someone, or you're not having
I think that's definitely helped. It was one of the first things I did when I kind of joined 4 years ago. So we had 3 offices. We had 2 front offices, and we had a kind of a property management centre, which wasn't it was customer facing, but only really for tenants and contractors and that sort of thing coming in to collect keys. And you could see kind of straight away there was this big disparity between the 3 teams.
Yeah.
It took some time to convince the owners, about a year and a half, 2 years to get it. Probably about a year and a half to convince them, and then over the next 6 months it kind of got done. But the difference it's made for the team is huge. But we all sit in this one big office, so you hear everything that goes on, and that for me is hugely beneficial. It's hard sometimes because it's easy to get distracted and jump in and get involved. So you've got to really be disciplined to not do that, and let the team get on with their role. That's ultimately why they're there. They're there to do that role. But you hear the kind of the points of pain that are coming out, and I've had to probably train myself to listen out for those things. And it's not something that comes naturally to say, oh, that's an annoyance for that customer, or they're in a struggle with that. I've had to train myself to think, right, that's what is their problem? What is actually the problem that we're
what
trying
question
to
what they're trying to ask, aren't they?
Yeah, so they might ask a question, but that might not be the problem. So it's kind of thinking about it. And I guess it all comes back to once you've done a lot of kind of articles or blogs or pieces of content, and you've got a format or structure for that, the problem is the thing that you want to try and get that reader's attention for right at kind of the start, and then the solution obviously comes at the end.
And so have you got that structure?
Yeah, I do try and follow a bit of a structure in the sense that I would, for me, kind of what I've read or observed or kind of seen is, and I'm definitely no expert at this at all, but you want to get the reader to the end of the article ultimately. So you got to make it, first you've got to make sure that the first sentence or paragraph for me is going to the person that you want to read that. So if it's an article about a landlord, sellers might read it, but that's not who I'm writing it for. I'm writing it for a landlord. So the first sentence will be kind of targeted to them to say something along the lines of, landlords, are you finding this really difficult? And then the problem might be, and just expand on the problem, try and make it a bit softer. And I try and get them to read it almost as if, right, okay, this is me, this is my problem. Yeah, this is definitely my problem.
Yeah.
Okay, how do I fix this? Then how can Shaw help with that?
Good.
So kind of.
Yeah, because I find you find a lot of content can be a bit safe and like vanilla-y, I call it, where it's it's not engaging. It relates almost to a different person effectively, than actually talking direct to that individual about, this is your problem. I know this is your problem. You know, it's being experienced in other ways, and almost that story element to it, to then wrap down to like, if you are experiencing it, this is how, not being too overselly. You see a lot of it where it's just the same listed out, like, if you've got a problem with this, and then there's like 5 points that are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Nothing really related to actually your local area, the type of land you're trying to maybe reach to, the type of vendor. And then it almost ends with like, call us if you're experiencing this, or you want to know more information. Yeah,
it's very easy, and I guess you do have to be quite disciplined with it, but it's very easy, and just to kind of say, this is what we do. This is us. Me. This is how we can help you. And it's hard not to write a piece of content that doesn't say that without kind of practice. And my ethos is very much just help others. When I came into the industry 15 years ago, and it was still even then, it was very much a kind of, estate agents weren't very fondly thought of, and probably still aren't very fondly thought of. And I kind of set off on a mission to kind of say, let's change that. Why? Like, why in the rest of the world are they charging 5-6%? And they're thought of on the same scale as doctors and lawyers. When actually what we're doing is probably one of 3 biggest things that's going to happen in most people's lives. Like, we should be right up there, and we're not. And
it's quite a weird one, because obviously when I've experienced in the past, you go to a networking event or you go to a party and someone says to you, what do you do for a living? You're like, I'm an estate agent. And like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. You end up having to bite your tongue sometimes, because they just think you're a bunch of shafty people. But I think it comes sometimes down to previous experiences those people have had, or their friends' experience. Because when you probably come across it, and I've come across it certainly, the assumption that people go into it, when they start to deal with the individuals who are not like that, it completely flips on the other end of it. You become the person of like, they go to and they need guidance and advice, and you're the person that they go to and seek that all the time, rather than just being this letting agent or sales agent that's just, I'll speak to you once in a while and we see how things are getting on, or they come to you like...
Absolutely. I think we've not helped ourselves as an industry, where we've become lazy because of this automation and portals and CRM systems, and there is probably a lot of agencies that will just be lazy and kind of almost, sellers walk away from the process thinking, well, I've kind of done that most myself. What have they done? They've taken a few photos and stuck it online, and that's it. They've kind of got lucky. But there are so many really amazing agents out there that are changing the industry, but it's still quite a small proportion. I think it is changing. I think with 5-10 years, I think it will be a very different industry. But it's just getting kind of past that kind of...
I think it's an interesting one, because I loved last year, I was walking my dog at 6:30 in the morning. I always meet this other lady, it's in the park, she's got her dog, etc., and the dogs run around together. And she had gone on the market, another agent. Obviously, I was at Iceberg by then, etc. And she was struggling. And then, a few days later, I saw her again, and she was like, she needed to get out of the house and get it all done. She'd been there for years, and she wanted to relocate near her kids. And so I basically went back at home and looked online. It was like 7-8 o'clock in the morning, looked at what could be done. And then, because she said she didn't get much conversation from her agent, and the agent's a big agent in our patch. They class themselves as a big independent, but they're pretty much a corporate anyway. And I said to her, "Do you get much feedback?" "Nah, don't get anything really." So I went back, gave her like a little marketing plan, and I told her to go to them and do the following steps. She sold it in 5 days, and she'd been on the market like 8-9 weeks. And it was just simple steps and just tweaking little bits and pieces. And she was like, she came and found me in the morning. And it was a bit weird one. She gave me a bottle of whiskey at like 6:30 in the morning to say thanks.
Well, by 7:30.
Yeah. I was like, so yeah, 6:30 in the morning, walking around the park with a bottle of whiskey in my hand with my dog. It looked a bit weird, but it just shows how little tweaks are there. So,
but I think that shows really just probably there's the lack of knowledge that's in the industry, because I'm sure that the suggestions you gave her probably weren't that complex.
No.
And why aren't agents doing that from the off? Like, why aren't they doing the best that they possibly could be from the very, very off? And then why aren't they doing something to change it? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And that's true with marketing, and in particular with selling properties. If you just stick it online and forget about it, you're hoping for somebody to see it and like it.
Do you find there's because obviously a lot of agents we speak to, they think that they do marketing. So I do marketing. When you go, right, okay, what marketing do you do? I'm on Rightmove, I'm on Zoopla, got my website, I send properties out, I put them on Facebook, and then you're like, okay, what marketing do you do about your brand? Do you find there's any similarities between marketing a property and marketing content?
Yes, there are, but they're two very different things. And I think you've got to think of them, for me, I think, is you market the property, but you kind of go down a certain way of marketing. And then the branding is, you've got to think of, if she's marketing the business, more as a kind of a long-term strategy almost. And it's not just, we've advertised, we've put out an advert on Facebook.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Like, everybody's done that. Most people have done that. But
it's seeking the silver bullet, isn't it? I'm hoping that one content is going to wake up 15,000 homeowners, and they're all going to call me up, and they're going to sell their home, and I'm going to be mega, mega rich.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, how long have you been now in life cycle for? 4 or 5 weeks? Maybe it's nice 6-7 weeks?
Yeah, 6 weeks, I think.
Like, and like, you can see your content that's been going out, but now you can see the growth, can't you? Like,
yeah, I mean, our kind of our top part of the funnel's probably gone up about 8-fold, I think it is now. Since we started 6 weeks ago.
That's mental, though.
Purely content. But we've had time to do it, but we've pumped out a lot of content over the last 6 weeks. It's not like I'm doing something every single day. I've probably written stuff most days, but not necessarily pushed it out there.
Yeah.
But my kind of goal for this kind of lockdown period is basically just to grow the top part of the awareness funnel.
Yeah.
Just get people aware, and that's all I've really focused on. I'm not focused on much else of the funnel, in all honesty. I've just focused on the awareness, and probably only probably yesterday was the first piece of content that I did that wasn't for the awareness section. It was actually for people who'd read blogs.
Nice. So was that in the tagging sections of it?
It was part of taggings, but it was also so I've done kind of two things with it. One is I've obviously marked it as kind of an intent piece of content, and I've distributed it to our kind of all of our contacts. So the difference with those, obviously, they're already known contacts, and it's interesting because you can actually immediately already see that the people that are reading that blog are people that I've been out to see, or we've been out to see, clients of ours or potential clients of ours. All the awareness stuff they'd never read.
Yeah.
Maybe the odd kind of crossover, but then I've also done a kind of a retargeting through Facebook. So anybody that's read a piece of content, we've been able to retarget them with a slightly different piece of content that's not just about the local area. What tools would you say that you use the most when you create your content? I know you're probably going to have a list. I spend far too much time on Canva.
Yeah.
But Canva's a brilliant tool. I mean, you don't need any kind of design degree in how to use Photoshop, because I've been down that road. I've kind of thought, right, I need to teach myself Photoshop. I need to teach myself Lightroom, InDesign. And kind of a couple of years ago when I started getting into this, I thought, right, I need to teach myself marketing. I need to know how to become a marketing expert. And that's what I tried to do, and I'm still doing. And actually probably overcomplicated it. If I look back at what I did, and I thought, right, tried to probably do too much of myself. I probably just tried to learn skills I probably didn't and don't need. I don't need to know how to use InDesign, and I know how to use Photoshop to a degree, but I don't need to be any kind of expert in it. But there's tools out there that are dead simple. I mean, you can do quite a good piece of videos, or just create your own image and just brand it, or it doesn't need to be branded, but it just make it, personalize it. It's probably the best
is that mostly in Canva?
Mostly Canva. I use other tools like Grammarly, and what else do I use?
For people out there, what's Grammarly?
So Grammarly is just it's a really good tool. It's free. You can have it as an extension on Chrome, and it just checks your grammar, your spelling, your grammar. Dead good for content.
That's really, especially with grammar as well.
Because I'm not, English is not my strong point really.
Mathematics.
Maths.
There's
a couple of other cool tools that I use that you can get online, just like headline checkers. So you can like just put in the headline of the blog, and it tells you how good the blog is. I can't remember I'll send you the link afterwards if you want to add it in. Just little things like that, because and I've only just recently got into this, probably in the last few weeks, is actually thinking about the headline to get people kind of clicking in, because it's a massive part of it.
I think it's massive, isn't it? I was just only speaking to an agent just before us jumping on here with you about his headlines of some of the stuff he'd been writing, and I was like, it's just very, very like it doesn't want people to click on stuff. People it's not gonna grab people's attention to click on it anymore. And especially off the back of, I think, probably our workshop last week, you start to really think about the titles and really what the headlines should be to try and draw people in to reading a bit more.
Yeah, and you can almost get the headline and the first paragraph. The rest of it's almost irrelevant in terms of like the percentage of what people are going to read and pay attention to.
Yeah.
Most people will read the headline, click into the email, read the first paragraph and go, yeah, fair point, and move on. And that's it, they're done. Probably in the vast majority of people. And there'll be a percentage of people that will read kind of through to the end. But you've kind of, if you've got the headline and first paragraph, you've got them by that point. So they've kind of already done what it's needed to do.
And how do you measure your results?
So it depends on what I'd be measuring.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah. What would you say is quite interesting? Again, a conversation I had with someone this morning was about what do you say is good and bad in the form of my results? And I've said to them, well, there's no real benchmark across anyone because everyone's different. But what would you say? How do you measure your content in the form of what do you want to get out of it?
Are you speaking particularly about measuring results with content?
I would say measuring. How do you measure whether your content's been successful or not?
Yeah.
And what does success mean to you?
Okay. So good question. So probably up until six weeks ago, I couldn't really measure it other than maybe looking at reach or link clicks on Facebook ads that I'd run, and maybe Google Analytics. But with our website, it's not really kind of set up very well for that. So that's changed massively with Lifecycle. So I can now measure how many people have read the blog, how many of those contacts we actually kind of know. And then also I can measure the amount of people reading the blogs we've got a Facebook pixel installed on the blog. So I can see how many people are clicking on it and how many reads it's getting over a 7-day period, 180-day period, kind of going back, and you can then build an audience off the back of that. So yeah, it's been good to watch that kind of grow, and for me that I can then see the content is getting more and more reads. So I would say probably at the start of when we were first posting out content, I might have got 50, 100 people reading it, which for me at the time I thought, okay, that's pretty cool, that's pretty decent sort of number. And there'll be people probably that are watching this and thinking like, that's nothing, like we're getting thousands of reads. But for us in our business, that was probably where we don't have a lot of contacts necessarily in our system. I don't know how our system kind of compares with others, but now 6 weeks later, we're probably getting anywhere from 600 to 1,000.
Wow. And
because I've been able to measure it, I've been able to change how we distribute it.
Yeah.
Because it's all well and good creating the content, but you've got to get it out to the masses.
Yeah.
So we do different things. So I've got a bit of a structure which I follow, which is I'll do one main blog per week. And we might do maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other pieces of blog that might be relevant for that day, or Rightmove or Zoopla might come out with something. Zoopla came out yesterday with their city index report, which makes a good piece of content. Just turn it into a piece of content, link it to the Zoopla report, goes out to landlords. They loved it. So we will email that out. We'll post it on Facebook. We'll post it on LinkedIn. And then I'll also run a Facebook ad directly to that blog. And that allows us to get loads of traffic to it. And then we can...
Do you think the importance of actually distributing it? Because this is one of the common conversations I had with people, is that my old agency, we used to do huge amounts of leaflets, like stupid amounts of leaflets. And then we would do like, your 2020s down the street, newspaper advertising, endless stuff. And obviously a lot of that has now been cut back. A lot of agents are now obviously saying they're going to come off Rightmove.
Yeah.
Some of the agents have said they'll come off Rightmove. And then it's like, okay, what do you spend that money on? And because obviously you don't do leaflets, I think some of the concepts I think a lot of agents struggle with is, oh, I've put it on Facebook. You're like, that's great. Oh, I'm not getting much response from it.
Yeah.
And you're like, my analogy, and we've always used it, is saying like, it's like buying 10,000 leaflets and then putting them in your office and giving them out to people who just come into your office.
Yeah.
Really, isn't it? Here's a leaflet. Like, it's like, well, I've already had someone interested in you. Whereas to get those 10,000 leaflets out, you pay a leaflet company to come in and say, distribute it out to this patch, and I only want this patch because these are family home leaflets for the family home area.
Yeah.
And the unwillingness, I think, sometimes to, like, some of the agents out there, I've noticed they're spending now they've now spending about £800 a month, and they're getting 80,000 people now reach.
Yeah.
And engagement is huge as well. I find out on that part as well.
Yeah, I think I think creating the content is definitely the first half of the story. The second half of the story is then how you get people to see that piece of content, because you can have the best piece of content in the world, and your mum, your wife, they might absolutely love it, but you've got to get it out to people. So I would say probably work equally as hard on the distribution as on the content creation.
Yeah.
And we try things, we see what works. We try different platforms. Kind of like one of the things I'm kind of trialing at the moment is Instagram stories, like just putting ads through there. Just anything I can do to kind of to drive people to the website, really.
And I think it's great thing is in, like, I think everyone seeks to see whether they measure on whether they've got a reach or no reach, and that's how they measure it. Whereas I sometimes see it as, like, you put content out there and no one's clicked on it or no one's read it, then it means you haven't, like, just the audience isn't receptive to that type of content.
Yeah.
And it's quite a nice thing to know that. Otherwise, being in the dark, thinking that works because it's awareness content, and then no one's reading it and no one's interested, and you're still pumping out later.
The point I kind of would build onto that, Rob, is I think I've written pieces of content and I've thought, this is the bee's knees, this is the best piece of content. And I've written pieces of content that I thought I've kind of almost slapped together, done it in 30 minutes, posted it, and that has been way more popular than the one I've spent days and weeks kind of trawling through and trying to get perfect. So you just don't know. Like, I think since using Lifecycle, I'd say the thing that I've been kind of impressed with is the fact that I can now see what people are actually interested in. So what are they actually reading? What are people clicking in? And I've definitely been surprised by what has been more interesting to other people. But then that helps me to think, right, okay, this is the kind of stuff that my audience likes. So I can.
And actually, it's quite nice because you've got the audience receptive on the system telling you that. You've got your team telling you stuff. And if it sort of coincides, doesn't it? Then you know. Then you've now got the thought process of thinking, right, how do I make a really good headliner for that? What is going to be my first paragraph? Is going to be really punchy to solve that problem or engage with people. Then you're just using Canva to create the imagery for that, isn't it? Yeah. And now you've got a structure in place for what happens. Like, okay, right, this type of content is just this, so we're not going to do anything distribution-wise to it. But this piece is actually going to be the bit that we're going to start pushing out a bit more, and then you can measure it, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important that you have a structure, because beforehand I was guilty of, as anybody, of kind of just doing some content, posting it out there, forgetting about it, and then just moving on to the next piece, and that actually kind of repeating that, and actually, is it working? Is it not working? So I've now got this kind of structure, which I'm quite rigid in terms of how I follow it now. So like you said, create the content, create the image, because obviously the image is also kind of important because people want to click on it, you want it to stand out in people's feeds. I try and use quite colourful, bright kind of images or something that's going to stick out to them. So it gets them to kind of stop when they're reading it through. And then create it all in Lifecycle, get it kind of distributed. But then I've then got this distribution process, which we then follow, which drives people to that. And it's everything from kind of emailing the contacts, writing the email, because obviously that is just as important as getting people. Everything's done to get people to click. And it's just tweaking. So like knowing, right, okay, that one worked really well. So what did we do with that one? That's worked really well. So take that bit, or try something else this time. That's not worked well. So, I mean, yesterday I changed something on the funnel, which wasn't working. So we were having people that were reading the blog were then seeing our advert for the social distancing valuation tool. Yeah. And we were getting people that were looking at it, but we weren't getting forms that were completed. So I've actually taken it away from that, and I've put another piece of content in its place. Just actually to take it, because I think I was trying to, and this came from obviously the workshop that you guys did last week, but I think I was trying to walk too quickly or run too quickly, and I wasn't kind of going, I was missing a step.
It's the journey you're going to go down, stagger it out, because we're all guilty of it. This whole industry, isn't it? It's like, if you express some sort of interest in my brand, here's like, do you want to sell? Do you want to buy? Do you want to
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think that probably answers the question in terms of how do you measure your results. Is I think I would probably have measured results as before is kind of saying, I've done a piece of content, I expect the phone to ring. I want to be now ringing saying, I want you to put my house on the market. And you might get the odd one of people that do that, and that's amazing, but it doesn't happen that easily. And I think if you look for that silver bullet where you think, right, I'm going to write this one piece of content, it's going to be absolutely amazing, and the phone is going to go off the hook.
And it takes you about 6 weeks to create it.
Yeah.
And then by the time you distribute it, it's not relevant anymore anyway.
Yeah.
And then it's too over engineering, too over thought process on it. Yeah. So what would you say? What would you say your 3 best tips are for agents?
Do it. Just get on and do it. Don't procrastinate about it. Just put it out there. Just you'll get better at perfecting it the more you do it. I think that's the same with anything in life, but especially with this. And if I can do it, my brain is definitely not set up for kind of writing and kind of content. But I've probably changed it into a engineering type of structure. So I've got it in my head, I have to have a structure that works. So if I've got a structure I can follow, it's easy for me. I don't need to think about that process. But to get to that point, I've had to do it and then teach myself how to do it.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say just get on and do it. Listen. So I think that would be my second tip is listen to your team, talk to them, ask them in the morning meetings or throughout the day. So kind of what questions are you getting asked? And I do prompt the team to kind of say, guys, I need a blog for next week, or what questions you get coming up. And they might not have anything immediately, but later on in the day, they'll come to me and say, I've had this question twice. I think this would make a really good blog. Because we remind them, it just gets them to keep it to the forefront of their mind. So I think listen to your clients, listen to the problems they've got, and then just think about how you can help them. I mean, we do this naturally, I think, as estate agents anyway. I think people in the industry are naturally helpful people. So we're normally pretty good at helping people. And so you've probably already got the answer. And the next time you probably have a conversation with a client, think about what that problem was. And then just think about how you solved it. There's your content.
I've just had the same conversation with a client this morning. He said I was struggling to work out the content. I basically said to him, like, think of every time someone's asked you a question face to face, and then you don't just go, oh, I don't know. You explain verbally the problem. That verbal part to it could be turned into the content to establish the question that's been asked, and the answer needs to be answered on it.
Definitely. And I write mine down. So just on my notes section on my phone, I've got a note that's dedicated to blogs and what the problem is. Every time I come across something, I just think, right, I'll put that in there. Sometimes I'd probably say 50% of the time, and I don't write half of what I put in there. But if I get the same one that comes up again, I think, well, okay, that's probably quite relevant. Let's do that one. It might be just something about how to do the perfect viewing if your agent can't do the viewing. How would you, if you got asked that question, or somebody rang up and asked that question, or they asked that question on a client meeting, how would you answer that question? And just put that in words. I guess that's all you have to do.
Yeah. What would be your last tip?
Put a structure in place for yourself. I think don't try and do it all at once, and I think have a plan of how you're going to do it, and just get good at doing that, following that plan. Write the steps out of what you want to do, and then follow those steps. So however you work, I would say for me, I wrote out the steps. So write the article, create the image, etc., all the way through, and then just follow it and tick it off as you get.
Do you think that process will eventually help? Say you ever need to bring someone else within, because I believe in the industry we're going to go for a change of having less of the original roles and more roles in the form of like you might end up having a full-time videographer, / photographer. Someone does who does PR and content for you.
I 100% agree with you there. I mean, I think where we'll end up as an industry, I think we'll end up with people who are dedicated to bringing properties on the market, and people who are then dedicated to videography, photos, marketing. And I think we'll become people I think the industry is becoming experts in marketing, experts in negotiation. I think they're the two core skills for me. I think if you know how to market, and that goes down to just general marketing, but how to market a property is the easiest starting point. How to then market your business, and then proper negotiation. None of this kind of backwards and forwards about this price or 500 more and we'll accept it. Like proper negotiation, like being able to sit in front of a client and kind of charge 2%, 2.5%, and know that you're worth it.
And what was that going back to? Was that stuff that you trained on? Learning all that bit part?
Which bit?
The negotiation?
Yeah, so I guess when I started the industry, I was fortunate enough that the negotiation was a a big part of the training that I got.
Yeah.
And we used to call it win-win. So kind of making sure both parties are happy with the outcome, but obviously ultimately working for the seller. But that was how we were taught proper negotiation. None of this kind of price. What's the seller think? Okay, we'll meet in the middle. And there's a really, really good book which I'd highly recommend to anybody. It's by a guy called Chris Voss, who's Never Split the Difference.
Yeah, awesome book, isn't it?
Awesome book.
Absolutely awesome. I was my partner Charlotte was getting a bit annoyed because as I was reading it, I was trying to anchor towards her.
Yeah,
she was like, "I know what you're doing here. Stop it."
I mean, not just for our industry, but I think just generally in life. I mean,
yeah. Someone said they use it quite well to negotiate their kids.
Yeah, I definitely 100%. I've used it on my kids and it works. So yeah, I think they're the two skills I think that the industry kind of needs and people need to kind of sharpen up on if they want to be successful, I think, in the industry.
And finally, where do you see the industry going in 5 to 10 years? And I know it can be a completely different one, but
I think we'll go a bit like the American kind of Australian type of route, where I think there'll be a lot more self-employed agents, and it'll be much more personalized service. And I think I think agencies need to, but I think they will become specialized in certain areas. So an agency that specializes in apartments, or an agency that specializes in big kind of rural mansion type properties. Or an agent that just specializes in investment properties.
Because it's so true, because I mean, Mark talks about it a lot, but like so many agents have come across, everyone chases market share. They try and get as many properties they physically can on. They can't cater for it all. They know half of them are going to die off anyway and go, and that's the reason why probably 60% of the industry sells with a second home with another agent. And it's chasing that. So then you get too much stock on, you can't deliver the service and the journey you aspire to have. Your fees are always going to be less because you can't scale up and then expect to then have the same.
You can't provide the same kind of service, can you?
Yeah, and then so then you become like an agent just does everything. Yeah. And I think like we've got the buyer persona workshop next week, and that just helps understand like the first stages are: who are your clients, who are you speaking to, who you want to deal with. Then that's your market. Yeah,
I think you've got to identify who, and that goes back to the marketing side of it. I think you can't have the same marketing for somebody who is a landlord who's around the 100, 200, 300, whatever the kind of the price point is for your market. The same marketing is not going to work for somebody who's got a 1.52 million pound house.
Yeah,
it's a different approach, and I think we always try and sell as an industry an £80,000 home the same as an £8 million home, and they're two totally different beasts. The marketing that I would do for an £8 million home and an £80,000 is totally different.
Yeah,
it's not the same, but we apply this kind of this brush of right. This is the marketing that we do. It doesn't matter whether your home's 80,000, 800,000. We're just going to do the same thing. We're going to take some.
And that's the same problem you find with if you establish your fees, isn't it? If you've got if you say I charge 1.5%, and it's a 1.5% on 80,000, 1.5% on £1.5 million house, and you're doing exactly the same marketing for both.
Yeah.
Like, where's the difference? Why is someone paying more money for that service?
Yeah.
And someone's receiving it for the same amount of money. So you see us going down the more self-employed route.
Yeah, I think we will go down the route of people become specialists in certain roles, and we do kind of have the kind of negotiators, but and kind of I guess some people have kind of viewers and whatnot. But what I think where I kind of see it going is very more like a concierge type of service.
Yeah,
the person who brings the property on the market is that person's point of contact. That's the most experienced person. They deal with the property coming on the market. They might not. They shouldn't be taking the photos. That should be a professional photographer. a professional videographer, and that might be external, might be kind of somebody you contract in to do it, or somebody in the business, depending on where you are as a business.
Because then that does leave time, doesn't it? It does leave like someone doing your videography, someone doing this, whether that's in-house or external. At least allows you time to then continue that journey rather than getting sucked into things that you don't need to get sucked into, that then alleviates you from delivering that to the customer.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that it's very easy to get sucked into. I mean, you in one day you could be encouraging a client to come on the market with you in a client meeting, to taking photos and bringing a property on the market, recording a video at the property, through to then dealing with an issue on sales progression. And although you can transfer a lot of the skills, they're different skills, and it's hard to switch your brain from the different skills all the time. And there's a good book, I can't remember who it's by now, it's called The One Thing, and it very much kind of highlights the fact that the human brain is not designed to do kind of multitasking. You need to focus on one thing and kind of one thing, and specialize in that one thing. And I think because
they were saying, I think like on average it takes sort of 23 minutes, I think, once someone's distracted from a certain process, to get back actually deep into that thought process again. And like you do 23 minutes you're on focus saying, someone distracts you or you're doing something different, spend 10 minutes with that, then you're having to get back into it. It's half an hour later, and all those add up to actually
your day's
the process. And it just takes too long, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's where I think we'll go down a kind of a concierge type of service, where it's very specialized, it's very personal to that agency and that client, and how the structure of those agencies is set up might be slightly different, but I think we'll go down that route for me, and that should allow us to charge the fees that we deserve as an industry. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. So Andrew, I appreciate today.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much for your time. If any agents want to connect with you, what's best to connect with you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, or I'm in the Lifecycle Facebook group. I'm also in the Innovative Facebook group that you guys have got. So just add me on there and send me a message.
Awesome. Cheers today, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks, Rob.